Delegates to China's National People's Congress, the country's legislature, are now meeting in Beijing. Some believe that the Congress essentially functions as a rubber stamp legislature that simply endorses whatever is put in front of it. Italian scholar and columnist Francesco Sisci shares his opinion.
So some people say that the China's National People's Congress is just a rubber stamp that deal with the decisions passed down to them. What do you think of it?
My impression is that the decision-making process in China and in the West is different. In the West, there is a centrality of the parliament. The parliament is where issues are discussed and debated, and eventually some decisions emerge, are made. It's the parliament. Here, clearly, the decision-making body is not the parliament, it's not the Lianghui, whatever it is. And there are big policies, not single laws. And whereas in the West, there are many single laws, but very few big policies which are decided. Here, big policies decided by the Politburo or the Central Committee, this party institution.
Yeah, in a way, the decision is not made during those Lianghui proceedings.
It's not made. Yes, but it's not made, but it's not simply a rubber stamp. Mm-hmm. This is what I mean. My sense, my impression is that it's beefed up. During this process, it's beefed up.
The National People's Congress Standing Committee holds bi-monthly sessions, while the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference holds bi-weekly symposiums. Sisci believes these meetings help to give the two bodies more weight in decision-making.
And some say the NPC it has a growing influence. And what do you think of it?
Definitely. If the NPC or the CPPCC are going to have more meetings, and as it has happened in the past years, single members of both the NPC or CPPCC are encouraged to present more law bills, then automatically this will increase the weight of these two bodies. So it's not simply a rubber stamp, it's just that the whole decision-making process is different. This doesn't make China a parliamentary, Western-style political system, but it's no longer the old Leninist state.
Deputies to the National People's Congress do not necessarily agree with all government decisions. During last year's session, 378 deputies voiced their disapproval of a work report issued by the Supreme People's Court. The year before that, 605 deputies voiced opposition toward the same report.
And also, over the recent years, we have seen a growing number of delegates casting objection votes against certain, proposal. And what do you think of this phenomenon?
Honestly, objection vote I don't think is really relevant, has been really relevant. I remember there were a lot of votes against the proposal of Three Gorges Dam, and it was almost 20 years ago, and at the time they made a big thing of it. In fact, I don't think it had such a dramatic impact overall. What I think it's more important, what has been more important in two things: the encouragement for a more active role of the single members, and more meetings of these bodies, because this objectively increases the weight of these two bodies.
Do you think the National People's Congress, the delegates, should play a more confrontational role?
Part of the delegates, not all, part of the delegates will have to be allowed to be opposition, loyal opposition, open and loyal opposition, and part of the delegates, of course, are for the government. The opposition has to be loyal. In the West, all oppositions are loyal. They are not revolutionary.
In the future, as China further implements the rule of law, what's your expectation of the country's legislative body?
The rule of law, by definition, 依法治国, is already accepting a new system. Checks and balances, in the short term, make the power a little bit unstable, but then over the long term, make it more stable, prevent revolutions, prevent dramatic changes. So by changing a little bit every day, by putting controls on the controllers every day, you prevent dramatic change.